Hello, everyone, and welcome to another RedK Live. And today we're focusing on revolutionizing employee support. And the key focus for today's session is AI-driven service. And we're going to give you a nice live demo as part of it as well. It is actually quite a short agenda that we have for you today. You'll be pleased to hear. Really, we want to focus in on the core reasons why it actually matters now, why you should be looking at this internally if you're not already. Focus a little bit on how Zendesk are helping to solve this challenge for the employee service team. And then, as I mentioned, there will be a live demo at the end of the session. But before we kick off with all of that, it's worth us actually introducing ourselves and who will be speaking on today's call. So quickly introduce myself. My name is Tom Jeans, as you can see there, and I'm head of sales for RedK here in the UK. I look after all of our business lines. I've been working now in the field of customer experience for nearly a decade, predominantly with RedK, but also in other businesses as well. And I'm fortunate today to be joined by George Cox, our lead customer experience consultant. George, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, thank you for joining, everybody. My name's George, and my role here at RedK is predominantly working with Zendesk and particularly customer experience, customer service. And appreciate today's topic is very much employee-led, but given that Zendesk's new sort of skew and new take on this is really interesting, I'm hopefully here to showcase how Zendesk are taking on or tackling employee experience, employee services through their technology. Similar to Tom, been working now within sort of digital transformation within customer experience for just around a decade, with RedK in particular for around about 6 years or so now. So got to grips fairly well with the Zendesk technology and hopefully bringing that to light today through the live demonstration.
Brilliant. Thanks, George. And just to give you a little bit more background as to who we are at RedK, if you're not already aware, just our high-level numbers for you on the screen. So RedK, we're a customer experience and CRM consultancy. We've been working in this field now for over 20 years. And as I mentioned, as part of what we do, and George also mentioned, we've come across multiple different use cases, particularly within customer service and now within employee service as well. A lot of our customers who've been working with us on customer service challenges are coming to us saying, look, this is still a challenge for us on the employee service side. And we'll come to that a little bit later on as to how that's sort of evolving. Our main focus for today is we're based in London and therefore for the UK and I, but we do have offices all across Europe with over 90 employees. And crucially, they're all certified to the head on CRM and customer experience across the board. And the key bit there is we've got over 400 projects that we've delivered. And I just want to highlight a key part of this. The reason that we are so embracing of these new products, I guess, or new SKUs, as George mentioned, for Zendesk, is that we are a premier partner for Zendesk and have been since 2017. And that means that we need to be on top of all the latest releases that Zendesk have. And we'll come to what that looks like, but we partner with Zendesk because we believe it is the best-in-class solution for customer experience, both internally and externally. And they're investing heavily in the product in the last 18 months to be able to be the leading product within this field. So hopefully we can get some of that across for you. And that's our experience within Zendesk. Okay, so just want to set the scene a little bit as to why we're talking about employee service. Why does it actually matter right now? So as a high level, in today's workplace, empowered employees are the true engine of business success. And just like customers, employees are expecting support fast, convenient, personalized, just like in their day-to-day home life. Sometimes home is work as well. But if you think about it, employees have grown used to that seamless service. And as consumers, from next day deliveries to instant responses via chat, it's already there and has been for a long enough time that it's become a standard part of our day-to-day. And now we're expecting that same kind of frictionless support at work, whether it's the onboarding, requesting time off, legal details, resolving those IT issues. Our expectations have gone sky high. And unfortunately, that internal experience in many organizations has been lacking. It's been the second in the conversation as to where we need to change our employee experience. And that hasn't reflected those changing expectations. So HR, IT, and other internal support teams are often overwhelmed. They're handling the high volumes of employee requests, many of them time sensitive, using fragmented systems and manual processes in that process. And that creates a number of different challenges from disconnected tools that don't communicate, and often they're legacy products as well that are very hard and very clunky to get the right information out of. That leads to long resolution times, manual triaging, a lot of spreadsheets. Even if you have tools that are meant to be helping you with this, a lot of companies we're working with are pulling data out of those to then work on spreadsheets to solve the challenges that are needed and then put it back into the system. And there's a lack of visibility really as to where requests stand for the employee and also for the internal team that are meant to be supporting that as well. And that can cause real frustration for both the employees and the teams that they're trying to support. And that's where the opportunity lies. If we get employee service right, the results are going to be significant. It helps greatly to improve how people experience onboarding and offboarding. It can streamline the management of leave, benefits, life events, and also ITSM challenges as well. I know saying that after life events is a little bit of a downturn, but it is important to get these things right. And we can provide those employees with a quicker access to tools and answers they need to stay productive. That's productive for your business, but also it gives them a lot more happier, more engaged employees internally as well. And ultimately, that leads to stronger business outcomes as we move forward. So how does Zendesk go about resolving this? Some of you may be saying, look, I've got Zendesk, but it's more for customer service, right? Well, yes, that's predominantly where Zendesk has been leading the market for the last nearly 20 years now. And they have already been heavily investing in employee service, but now they've released a SKU that actually builds it all within the tool. You don't need to create a lot of those workflows, and we'll come to exactly what that looks like in a bit. But the key part of this is that you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. Zendesk have done it for you. It's ready there for you to utilize. So if you're already a Zendesk customer, it's a fantastic opportunity to utilize the tool you already love and build that in. If you're not a Zendesk customer, it's a fantastic entry into working with a best-in-class solution. So as I mentioned before, Zendesk is purpose-built for customer service, but now it's purpose-built for that modern employee support. It's AI-powered, and we'll come a little bit later on in the demo to what AI-powered really means. Often that's a very heavily used word, but we couldn't do a presentation without saying AI-powered in there, and genuinely it is AI-powered and automated. It uses intelligent routing, self-service bots, and QA monitoring to ensure that employees receive fast and consistent support, often without needing to wait for that human response. So a lot of that frustration can be taken out of the conversation. Next is also incredibly flexible and scalable. You don't need to be a developer to be able to utilize all of this. The platform's fully configurable through no-code tools, and you'll be able to see how that looks a little bit later on from the demo that we'll show you as well. And it just means that you don't need a large development team. You don't need to re-educate the team that are going to be utilizing this. It becomes seamless in your technology stack. And it also means that HR and internal teams can actually tailor those workflows to fit those workflows, the fields, the requests, and forms with ease to fit the use cases that they know best. Focus on what they know best, not on teaching them how to utilize technology. And lastly, Zendesk also integrates directly into the tools employees already use daily. So Slack, Microsoft Teams, and internal portals. Becomes a natural part of that workflow. It also natively integrates with existing HR platforms as well, such as Workday, HiBob, Rippling, Bamboo HR. All of those are native integrations with Zendesk. So it just means that you're bringing together and centralizing all of those processes. It means you can deal with it faster, more efficiently, and more effectively as well. And critically, it is built with that enterprise-grade security. We're dealing with a lot of personal information when it comes to this, but we're also dealing with information that needs to be handled quickly as well. So that security means you have confidence in what's in there. The sensitive data is safeguarded, but it also maintains compliance throughout with that unified system as well. And that leads to all of the benefits that having that centralized solution can have. So that's how Zendesk have lent into this as a challenge. And it's not a new challenge. It has definitely been exacerbated by working from home and challenges of being able to coordinate teams in much more remote circumstances. The move back to office now has meant that actually, again, coordination with team members about what they can and can't do in certain positions has also been a part of that. So it is a conversation that's coming up more and more often with our customers. And I think that leads us nicely to who is actually who is actually working with this. So Tesco, obviously extremely well-known brand, but the key functionality here is that they've lent into the self-service aspect of Zendesk, and they've been working with Zendesk now for actually quite a large number of years. And their internal employee services has led to a 43% increase in self-service. Now, that means that there are less frustrated employees. There's less frustrated employees on the other end, having to deal with only the most complex queries and those that are the most of a challenge. And they've still got a total self-service rate of 73%, which is incredible that many people can get the information they need without necessarily needing to touch a human. And that means that it is complex queries that are being resolved. We're not just talking about sending people to an article and hoping that they can find a solution. Their self-service rate is quickly growing for these employees. And there are a huge amount of employees at Tesco. So as you can see, there are over 330,000 employees. So working at scale is not a challenge for this solution. So that's an intro as to Zendesk Employee Services. And you're probably asking now, I want to see it in action. And I think that's the best place to pass over to yourself, George, to show us what it really looks like in real life.
So the demonstration we're going to be running through today is essentially taking Zendesk beyond its traditional reactive customer experience, customer service world. And I think what the beauty of this is that it's still leveraging almost all of the technology that exists within the traditional suite product within the Zendesk world. But we're now recognizing that we need to be in a world where we're supporting our employees as much as we're supporting our customers, just much like Tom has set the scene for us and set some really nice context. What I want to try to do is bring this to life through a use case for us today. Now, the demonstration I'm going to be showing, as you can already see, is quite a bland instance here, but what it does talk to is a use case that we are actually reviewing with lots of our customers. So we are showing you something with huge relevance. We are recognizing that this challenge does exist, and this is how we're looking to provide a solution to those challenges as well. Now, because of the type of use cases that we see typically within employee services, of course, it does involve many different stakeholders, different roles, different profiles, and therefore we're going to be swapping and changing between the different profiles. So we're going to be looking first at the end user experience, so an employee within the business. They have an issue. Now, ideally, they can self-serve. They're going to raise a request. We're going to see a full agent, so somebody within IT, HR, people services, reviewing, responding to that particular case. And then we may even look to see what that looks like for somebody that needs to approve a particular ticket. Therefore, they need to interact with it, maybe just from a light agent perspective. So they don't need a full user, but they just need to see what's happened on that particular case. So we're going to raise the ticket together, of course, in the event that the end user can't find the answer they're looking for. So we're going to just hit submit a request. When we do so, we can then, of course, customize and build these forms out to whatever is necessary. So we're going to go for the example that we're going to raise a project request. In this particular example, I'm just going to raise a request for access to a new solution. So I'm going to write for the HR team. I'll pop in here that we would like to purchase a new software, essentially. Now, the project type, of course, is going to be related to a new software request. We're going to need to pop in a name, so a name of the actual product that we have. And what you'll notice here is, of course, some fields are mandatory through the asterisks, others are not. I'm just going to leave this empty for the purpose of the use case, maybe just because I don't have the information, or simply just move on and submit the request. So we're just going to pop in some values here, and we're then going to hit submit. So all fairly straightforward so far. Because we're logged in, and again, this could be logged in through single sign-in, of course. The ticket has been raised. We've got a unique reference number. We can see if it's been assigned to anybody. We can see the project type, all the information on the right-hand side. So as I say, so far, so straightforward. Now, what we're going to do is then transition across to my agent perspective. I'm just going to refresh this for us here. Now, this perspective, you'll notice, looks and feels exactly the same as the suite product, but with the way in which we've designed this for these particular use cases. On the left-hand side in our views section, you'll notice here that we've created particular views or folders, which are all related to the employee services world. So HR onboarding, ITSM, approvals, large projects, small projects, purchases, and so on. And because we have this new approval process, which we're going to see in a moment, we can really begin to segment those that have either been sent for approval or those that are pending approval or need to be reviewed before they're sent. And again, this is a really good way that we can report on things. We can actually follow up through things automatically, and we haven't got to have those manual notes on our desktops to follow up with certain individuals. We can actually have an approval process built in natively to the solution. Now, for this particular use case, you'll notice that we've created folders for ITSM approvals within small or large projects. You notice here approval not started, and we'll see the ticket, excuse me, that we raised just a moment ago, which is less than a minute ago, which is what we just raised. Once we open up that ticket, what we will now see is the construction of a ticket typically related in Zendesk. On the left-hand side here, we've got the data values. We can see it's a new project request, the new software. We can see it's being automatically categorized as a project size medium. And we're determining that between small, large, medium. And that could just be because internal processes. If it's small, maybe it could be sent straight through for approvals. If it's medium or large, maybe we need to have a bit of a review section before we can even move on to the next steps. Now, what you'll notice in the center is very straightforward. We can see the intent utilizing Agent Copilot, which is great. So we can see placing a new order. We can see the information. Now, here, the beauty of this within particularly Agent Copilot and the employee services world, what we're noticing is through Auto Assist is that the request has recognized that we haven't received enough information for us to process this and move on to the next step. So what does that mean? Is we can say, thank you for your request. Could you kindly share a brief description of how the software will be utilized and rationale behind reasoning or requiring this? And again, this is a great way for supporting the agent in understanding that we can't just simply approve this request and move on to the next step. We actually need to receive a little bit more information to verify that we can actually get that information. So what we're going to do is just approve that response. That will then simply send the response in. You'll notice here that it's now awaiting the customer reply. So it's a real nice way to make sure that the agents are following the correct and necessary steps to make sure that we're actually prioritizing or moving on with this request appropriately before we just moving on to the next step without actually verifying that this is of course necessary. Now, for the purpose of this, again, we're just going to transition across back to my end user experience. I'm just going to give my internet a bit of a refresh. You'll notice the response has been sent. And as an end user, I'm just going to pop in here. Yes, of course, the reason we want this is because we need to draw process maps behind our organizational teams and diagrams and so on. So we'll hit submit. And of course, that submit will get sent back to the ticket. Again, when we come back to our Zendesk environment, what you'll notice now is, of course, the response has been received, which is great. And now the Auto Assist is doing exactly the same thing. It's now verifying the information that we have received. It's now recognizing that we've received the details. We can now move forward to the approval process. And actually, we can then sort of move on to the next step. So please be aware that your request will be evaluated by our purchasing and IT team, and we'll inform you of our of the process, or the progress. Sorry. What we'll also do is now add an action or change the status to waiting ITSM manager approval. So it's recognizing that we're going to send the response, but we're also going to send this for approval to the relevant teams who can then move on to the next step. Again, I'm just simply going to approve that. What I'm also going to do is just update the reasoning into the left-hand side of the ticket, just as an agent activity. And the reason I'm doing is that, again, we can report on these sort of things. It keeps it consistent, data's updated, and it means that we're just being as accurate as possible as we move forward. Now, what we can see here is the response has been sent. So we recognize that we're now waiting for the manager approval. Now, historically, we might send an email via side conversations. We might send a Teams, a Slack, and so on. But actually, we want to keep this nice and concise within the same environment. Now, available within the employee services environment, you'll notice here on the right-hand side, we have an approval request. And this is now just a panel within the right-hand side and within the context panel where we can actually create an approval for an IT manager. Now we can actually select this. We're going to select somebody that we want to approve it. So I've got a fake user, somebody called Emily, new HR system approval. Please, if I could spell, please can you approve? Now, again, the beauty of this is that we're keeping everything concise. So I can send the approval request. We can see the decision is pending. We're waiting. This has been sent on the timestamp and it's been sent to somebody to approve that. And that's now been updated and kept within the same ticket. So what we then want to do is then transition across to my light agent perspective once again. So appreciate we're seeing lots of different things. But we can see the ticket that has been raised. I can receive a notification. Now, viewing this as a light agent, you'll notice quite a lot of differences in the fact that a lot of things are grayed out because I don't have a full user access. So, of course, I can't update information. I can't respond to the end user, but I do have access to either deny or approve the request. And that's really important because we just recognize that this person doesn't need to be purchasing a license. They can actually just simply log in as a light agent, which is included in the subscription of the suite plan. And they can then either reject or approve, as I say, and it keeps everything within there. We can also set notifications to send an email. We can then direct them to Zendesk, or we can even have them approve or reject it within their email as well to make life as easy as possible for those IT or HR approvers. Now, in the event that we're going to just approve the request for the purpose of the use case, we can just say, all good, move ahead, for example. We can submit the approval and that'll then change to approved, all good, and the comments then added there. And we will now notice automatically through the workflow that we have designed, we have recognized that once the ticket has been approved,
there's a next step that needs to happen automatically. Now, historically, maybe we might need to ask the agent to action the next step, but actually, because we know that it's been approved and that approval process is in place for a reason, we can actually have the automation then kick off the next step automatically. So you'll notice here a side conversation has started, which is now raising the request with the next sort of set of teams. So what I'll do is I'll just transition across to my full agent just to show you that in action within the ticket. So you'll notice here, by the request being approved, I can actually get my internet just a quick refresh. By being approved, the same, we know that within the process that we have internally that's been approved, the next step can then automatically happen. You'll notice here that a message has been sent. So Ignacio, our sort of colleague that has created this, you'll notice that a side conversation has now started with the software purchasing team, because we know that team is necessary. They need to be included. And you'll notice here that they need to go ahead with the purchase request. There might need to be a business document that needs to be created, return on investment, business case, as I say, and there's now various steps that need to happen along that way. And that's happening automatically. So we can actually see that ticket here, number 84. This ticket now is almost like a child ticket, if you like, related to the parent ticket. So we can see it's a project request, we can see it's medium size, we can actually move into different information. But what we've also done within this scenario, because we recognize that when purchasing new software within organizations, it's not quite as simple as just logging on or speaking to an account executive at the relevant software company. There might actually be a bit of business justification as to why this software is required, and there might even be further approvals required outside of the environment of Zendesk in this scenario. So what we have done in recognizing that is that we have created automatically that a document can be presented, and we just created a simplistic Word document here, in the fact that when a new software request is required, what it means is that we need to fill in further information. And what we've also done is we've automatically tagged information from the initial request in Zendesk to recognize that the software name is Diachart. We recognize the use case description, the annual cost, the expected users, and now we're asking the team to complete their security review. So we're trying to provide as much information at the beginning. We don't want people to be copying and pasting information when it already exists in a Zendesk ticket. So this information has automatically been transferred across to the Word document. This can now be updated. This can now be re-uploaded to Zendesk. This can now be shared internally, and the next steps can then be approved and then move on to the next steps, essentially. And this is where we're recognizing that there are lots of different stakeholders. Lots of different information needs to be passed between one place to another, but we're trying to keep this as streamlined as possible and efficiently as possible, which will then result in opportunities to improve the end user experience or opportunities to be efficient as much as possible within the organization. So appreciate I've covered quite a lot there, but hopefully what we've seen in the fact is that an end user can submit a request within the employee service as well. The initial request can be sent through, as we can see here. Utilizing Agent Copilot and Auto Assist, we can actually begin to streamline the process in actually responding or reviewing, approving the particular cases. Once we have all that information, we can then actually send that for approval internally. Once that's been approved or rejected, in the event that that's the case, we can actually then automatically trigger the next step. In this scenario, we can actually speak to the IT software department. We can fill out the necessary documents externally, and then we can move on to the next steps. So hopefully that's covered quite a lot of different areas. And as you can imagine, in this particular use case, we can then continue with that ticket, continue with the conversation. But for the purpose of this, I just wanted to highlight that key area at the beginning of the journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, George, for that demonstration. And that, also with the caveat to, look, you'll kind of cover a lot of use cases all in one go here. And I think the key thing we want to get across is if you want something bespoke to your business, we're more than happy to jump on a call, run through how that looks for you. There's a lot more we could show and can show, but we wanted to cover the main use cases today in that demonstration. Okay, fantastic. I think that really covers everything we wanted to run through today. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you, George, for your support on this one and your demonstration. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to either myself or George on LinkedIn or contact us at redk.net. And we hope to see you next time. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.